after months of waiting, Comptroller and Auditor General Rajiv Mehrishi, the CAG, submitted his report on the Rafale deal to Parliament on Wednesday, 13 February. We all remember how the CAG played a huge role in publicising the scams allegedly committed by the UPA2 government. 2G, Colgate, you name it. After all, the CAG is the auditor of government deals, the expert meant to assess whether public money is being well spent or instead being cow-fied by politicians and their bankrupt but somehow still filthy rich friends. So, did the CAG vindicate Rahul Gandhi and the Congress's claims that the Rafale deal is a scam, that the deal is exorbitantly priced, that it is meant to benefit Anil Ambani, that in fact, Chaukidar chor hai? No. The CAG report makes no mention of impropriety or illegality when it comes to the Rafale deal. And it even says that the deal for 36 aircraft, signed in 2016, is 2.86% cheaper than the deal being negotiated during the UPA tenure, after making relevant adjustments, of course. This has led to the BJP taking to primetime debates and social media to celebrate. But that being said, were all the media reports that have alleged PMO interference, the dropping of anti-corruption clauses, convenient meetings between Anil Ambani and the French, were all of these pointless? Well, no. That's because the CAG report doesn't actually refute any of those revelations, presenting 5 reasons why the CAG report isn't the end of the Rafale saga. First off, the CAG report says nothing about the alleged Anil Ambani connection since it does not deal with the offset contract aspect of the deal. There will eventually be a separate report on that, so this report doesn't mean a clean chit on those allegations. Not yet, at least. Which means, for example, the Indian Express report on Anil Ambani meeting French Defense Ministry officials before the announcement of the Rafale deal isn't affected by the CAG report. Before I get slapped with a defamation suit in Ahmedabad for thousands of crores, I should make it clear that neither this report nor any others prove any sort of connection between the deal and Anil Ambani's reliance. The point is just that allegations about the offset contract process and who will be getting these contracts are not foreclosed by the CAG report. Next, the CAG report doesn't reveal any of the actual prices of the deal after the Defense Ministry asked for these to be redacted. Yes, it does specify differences in percentage terms, but without the actual numbers, we can't really do any verification or assessment of these. This is kind of crucial here, since the findings in the report are based on a comparison between the actual price of the contract agreed in 2016 on one hand and an audit-aligned price on the other. Now, this isn't as easy as it sounds, and I'll tell you why. While the actual price in the 2016 deal is the cost of 36 aircrafts in flyaway condition, the aligned price is an estimated figure that makes a bunch of adjustments to tell us how much 36 aircraft would have cost us from the original 2007 deal. So, why these adjustments, you may ask? Well, A, because the original 2007 deal was for 126 aircraft, while the 2016 deal was for 36. B, there were technological transfers in the 2007 deal since most of the planes were to be made in India, which is not there now in the 2016 deal. And C, it's been a while, which means inflation plus currency fluctuations have to be taken into account. So, the only way you can compare the deals and see if our current deal is cheaper or more expensive is to have a properly calculated aligned price. And did the CAG get these calculations right? Well, we have 2 problems here. Problem number 1 is that we don't know any of the actual numbers, so we have no clue whether the aligned price was correctly calculated or not. Problem number 2 is that the CAG report does not actually tell us how they calculated the adjusted price. According to the report, this is what they used. To simplify that, they used a formula they don't reveal to us to adjust the figures, something inflation, and voila, cheaper deal. This lack of transparency about the numbers and calculations is precisely why some of these recent articles which have come out in the press are relevant. On the same morning as the CAG report, the Hindu's Bofors-busting veteran N. Ram revealed the details of a dissent note filed by 3 members of the team who negotiated the contract. Their first and foremost objection to the deal was the fact that it was vastly overpriced, according to them. Because according to their calculations, the actual deal which we got in 2016 is some 55% more expensive than what it would have been or should have been had the 2007 price been adjusted. So, did the CAG look at their numbers, consider their view? Yes, he did. And then he called the negotiators' adjusted price unrealistic, since it was way lower than what the French were willing to offer. Now, the thing is, Just because the French weren't willing to offer that doesn't mean the dissenting negotiators were wrong. By the CAG's own admission, something like 78% of the original 2007 price was for the technology transfer that was supposed to happen so that HAL could manufacture the bulk of the planes, and these would then happen in India. The new deal has no technology transfer since HAL isn't going to be doing anything. So the price per aircraft should be significantly lower, you would imagine. The negotiators looked at this. They also looked at Dassault's annual reports. They looked at how much they were selling the jets for to others, and so they arrived at their adjusted figure, which sounds like a pretty reasonable approach. The CAG, on the other hand, does some jiggery-pokery to separate the tech transfer price out of the whole price and then they adjust it, but it's not clear how they've done this. The CAG also did a similar exercise, by the way, for the cost of one of the missiles that was part of the original deal, but which we no longer need to buy from abroad since the DRDO is now making them. It's been a while after all. The alternative missiles now being bought from abroad are significantly cheaper. In fact, the entire 17.08% savings on India-specific enhancements that we're supposedly getting on the new deal comes from this one difference between the missile prices. So, this is very important since the savings on the enhancements are basically the only reason the deal is cheaper. Certain aspects of the deal are actually more expensive, like engineering support and pilot training. As long as we don't know how these numbers were adjusted and why the dissenters' numbers were wrong, questions can still be raised about the pricing of the deal. From the very inception of this whole deal, the manner in which it has come about has been dubious, and the CAG report does not rebut any of those claims. If anything, it makes things worse. It shows how Dassault didn't fulfill the criteria to supply the aircraft in the first place for the original 2007 deal. A bit of a slap in the face for the Congress as well as the BJP. Despite this, Prime Minister Modi decided to switch from the original deal to this new one, even though Dassault weren't actually offering the best price. And he claims that he'd withdrawn from the older RFP and deal, and yet he still went ahead with that. So, on top of this is done without following any of the relevant procedures. So, now the centre says that what we did was still definitely compliant with the defence procurement policy. But funnily enough, the CAG has itself said this was not true. So what we have here is the CAG's own report very politely calling the government's bluff on procedure, which means this also becomes a bit of an embarrassment from the Supreme Court, which had said that the procedures were broadly followed. The final reason why the CAG report isn't the end is because of the mysterious way in which key clauses and requirements were modified and dropped against the wishes of the official negotiators, the Defence Ministry, and the Law Ministry. According to NRAM, these even included the anti-corruption clauses, which were removed at the last minute, after, by the way, the deal had been approved by the Prime Minister's Cabinet Committee on Security. The CAG report says nothing whatsoever about any of this. Another big one, by the way, was the dropping of a requirement for a sovereign guarantee or a bank guarantee, which the Defence Ministry and the Law Ministry had insisted on. Even their alternative option, which was to route payments through an escrow account, was just dropped. The CAG acknowledges that this happened, but doesn't give us his opinion on it, which is strange since all of this comes in a section titled Assessment of Terms and Conditions. Interestingly, like the Supreme Court, the CAG seems to have been informed that the decision to drop the guarantee requirement was made by the CCS in September 2016. But NRAM has revealed that the decision was actually made by the Prime Minister's office in October 2015 in discussions with French counterparts. What's more, the CAG report actually notes that the absence of a bank guarantee should have meant savings which were supposed to be passed on to the ministry. Instead, the CAG expressly says that Dassault alone benefited from this. In conclusion, CAG report or no, the Rafale saga is not going away. So stay tuned for more revelations, more exposes, and lots more drama.